So Chani Nicholas, Chani, Nicholas, and she has a beautiful website, and she does all of these. It's like monthly astrology kind of things where she really goes into it in detail, and it's scarily accurate. Like, there's a lot of things, and usually, and if you don't know about your rising signs, then you also want to find out about your rising signs. So we have a sun sign, which is the sign that in which you are born under, and then the position of the sun, of the moon, and your ascendant will also make a big impact on how your personality kind of evolves. So like for a lot of people, I'm a Pisces, but I don't act like a normal Pisces. So, and a lot of people say, that's funny, you don't really come off like a Pisces. It's like, no, I come off like a Scorpio because I'm Scorpio rising. So they go, that's right, it's first impressions. So your rising sign will be how people react to you and their first impressions. So, and then the moon is how you are emotionally. So it's how you'll show up to the emotional world. And I'm a Gemini moon with a Scorpio rising. So I'm complicated, we'll just say that. And there's a lot of, but the more self-awareness you have about certain aspects of things, it's just like a yoga practice. And astrology is not a prediction of like, oh, this is the way that it is, and therefore everything about you is written in stone. We have these tendencies and we have these influences, and when certain planetary movements, it's electromagnetic energy, it's just certain things they just work us on certain ways. And there have been a lot of lots of solar flare activity in the past couple of months, and during the equinoxes is when our atmosphere is the thinnest, and a lot of this radiation and disturbances from the universe, it's like everything comes through. We are made of everything that is in the atmosphere in the universe, right? So we are made from stardust. It's been proved. Every single element that's here is found in deep space. So when you have this awareness that we are all made up of all of this cosmic stuff, and that we're vibrating at these different frequencies, and that different planets then will vibrate certain things at different times, then you can come to this awareness and use it as, some people it's like for entertainment purposes only. I've never really been entertained by astrology. I've kind of been like smacked in the face with it. Like, oh, here's this lifelong thing that I've been struggling with as an aspect of my nature or my personality. And then somebody reads my full chart and says, well, yeah, that makes sense. Look at what this house is in here, and look at what planet you have in that, and look at how this one is. Oh, okay. So it makes me feel less crazy. So if you're looking for some validation, then get a full chart, get a full reading done by someone, and start to kind of unpack it a little bit, because it really does provide, it's very illuminating. And I know the Vedic astrology system, right? It's been around for a very long time. And yes, yeah, which is really beautiful. We'll have to get you in here for a workshop, because I'd love to have it, presented to the community. Yeah, Vedic astrology is very powerful too. So there's just all kinds of insights that you can gain. So with this full moon energy that's kind of flying around right now, let's just hear a little bit about it. There is no getting around it, no washing ourselves clean of it, no sanitizer strong enough to remove the impurities of our human condition. None of us are without fault, without a learning curve, without a blight on our record of trying to get it right. The more we distance ourselves from this fact, the worse the impact on our lives and the lives around us. Just beneath the surface of our interactions, beneath the surface of our persona, beneath the surface of our situations, lies a whole host of horrors and the humanity needed to deal with them. Our job is to strengthen our relationship with the latter, so that the former can be addressed with as much heart and humility as we can muster. We are anything but simple creatures. Life is anything but straightforward. Progress is not a linear journey, and if we wish it to be, life is too full of frustrations to be enjoyed. The resolve that we yearn for in life may be as fleeting as it feels, but each time we untie even the smallest of psychic knots, we release the wealth of renewable resources that laid in wait within us. Each hurt holds a precious parcel of energy. Like little deposits of our frozen soul in time, our energy is held hostage by what we have yet to come to terms with. Little thorns in our side, when left to fester, end up amounting to wounds that can rupture the threads that hold our lives together. Little should be underestimated if it causes us disturbance, discomfort, or distance from ourselves. The full moon occurs on April 29th at 5:58 p.m. at 9 degrees of Scorpio. Unharmed by any other planet, this full moon in Scorpio still brings an intensity that aims to unravel the more tightly woven aspect of our lives. As much as we want to control what we can, Scorpio reminds us that sometimes our lives need a complete overhaul, an eruption of emotion, a force intense enough to wipe out what was previously existing. These little landslides can feel overwhelming, but they are part of our spiritual life cycle. Sometimes life feels only like loss, until we outlive the more painful aspects of the process of regeneration. Rebirth is a pressure cooker. Even when we are doing all the things that we know we should do, need to, and can do, life can come along with an entirely new agenda for us to live and work by. Reconstruction is neither fault nor favor of the gods. It just comes when it needs to. This full moon in Scorpio reminds us that our power lies beneath the facade, beneath the roles we get attached to, beneath the socially acceptable, prepackaged versions of our situations, of our power lives. Our power lives and breathes in our ability to align ourselves with the honest rhythms of our lives. Scorpio is never satisfied with face value. It's always listening for the reverberations felt underground. It knows that to bank on what something or someone puts on display is foolishness in the highest form. Scorpio wants to teach us how to reach down, deeper than the places ignorance would have us rest, so that we might glimpse the meanings underneath the mask. Scorpio's magnetism can attract to it what it wants, but the most potent of its power lies in being able to grapple with everything that its gifts brings. Resilience teaches us that gain never travels alone. It is accompanied by the best of questions. Was it worth it? Is this what I want? What has had to go by the wayside in order for this growth to occur? This full moon sits with Jupiter, also in Scorpio. Having been there since October of 2017, Jupiter and the full moon are asking us what we have grown over the past 6 months in the area of our chart that contains Scorpio. It asks us what expense has this growth occurred, and what we have learned, wasn't worth carrying forward with us. The ruler of this moon, Mars, is still in a fairly tight conjunction with Pluto and Capricorn, the combination of which is helping to outline the impact of the structural violence that we live within, and the ways in which one harm empowers another. We cannot separate out the impact of white supremacy from patriarchy, from rape culture, from domestic violence, from wealth inequality, from gender-based violence, from the degradation of the planet. The structures of our world are largely built upon abusive dynamics. We live within systems that support and conceal, that never face the consequences of the harm that they have done. We are living in a moment that is becoming more and more adept at exposing these abuses, these inequities, these outdated systems that are in desperate need of an overhaul. It is at times entirely overwhelming. At other times, all too inspiring. At other times, a tremendous reminder of the work of awakening. This full moon is revealing what life already knows, that nothing is more important than our relationship to the truth. It might temporarily demolish us. It might rip from us the false comfort of our delusions. It might make us reframe every aspect of our lives, but it will never, ever hold us from our purpose, from a life lived with depth, meaning, and incredible magic. It will knock us off the pedestals that we've been unfairly placed upon, but it will never let us down. It's a really, powerful kind of like calling to this process of like, all right, if we're being honest about what it is that we're here to do, we're going to come up to face with some of these aspects of our nature that, we don't really like, or maybe we've been kind of hiding from, and we don't really want to accept, certain truths. And in order to grow, sometimes old things really have to get knocked down. And a full moon is a process of release. The new moon is a process of regeneration and rebirth. So in the next 2 weeks, it's really good to kind of work with the energy of letting go, so that by the time the new moon comes around, then we have some extra creative, life force to what do we want to then be reborn as. So in this last day of root chakra, it's entirely appropriate that it coincides with the full moon, because, all right, what's left? What's that last kind of string that we've been like trying to pull out of that, like, drain of the swamp of ourselves sometimes. Every year, it's like every couple of months, this is a cycle that it really does require that. And monthly, if you make a ritual of it, in Peruvian shamanism, they have a fire ritual every month for the full moon. And every single month, they gather around. They have a very specific, it's called the despacho ceremony. And when we have a sacred fire and you hold around, and everybody stands in the gates of each of the directions, and the shaman will be incanting rituals and, different, they're like mantras, but they're just like prayers that they know, and it's like to call in the spirits while they're ringing the bells. And the people who approach the fire, you have sticks, and each stick hold something that you want to release, because the energy of the full moon is a release. So you hold into this energy, you take a stick and you really kind of hold into it and breathe into it, and then burn it while people stand guardian around you. It's really a very powerful ritual. So even if you don't have it, like we don't have our Peruvian shamans up here to, hold a traditional despacho service, we can do something significant and make a ritual for yourself. So burn it, bury it, somehow transmute it, take something with you that you're really ready to release. Go to the beach, offer something to the ocean. It's very cleansing and purifying. There's really different ways that we can kind of tap into that. And let your practice today then be a reflection of this final dropping and letting go. Because the next chakra of sacral chakra, now we want to come into our creative birthing energy. We want to allow some this water and the fluidity and the pleasure and the beauty and our senses, and spring is like about to really explode, and all right, everything can be beautiful and creative, and all these little baby animals are going to start being born, and then all of a sudden we see, oh right, this place is not just, winter is like the final season of death. Spring is really the time for regeneration and birth. So on this last day, what are you still kind of struggling with? But what have you seen? If you're not really ready to, like, the fire illuminates this final seed. Is that seed ready to be removed so that it doesn't repeat itself? Or are we still, okay, one more cycle of this, before I really get it? Because sometimes that's what happens on the spiritual path too, is that we recognize that if something's repeating itself and it's come up yet again, you might not be ready to be fully clear of it, but you might be ready to do something slightly different so that next time you're really ready to be released of it, and then it really won't come back again. So let's, really come inside and set some intention for that. So if you haven't done so already, let's close your eyes and come inside and just notice, what has shifted in this month. Maybe let's take some stock to ground. Do we feel a shift in our bodies? What's occurred? And it's okay if you just felt like you were kind of pushing through or trotting along. You're not the only one. And if we feel a new sense of space or strength, then let's ground and connect to that. And then lift and lengthen out of the lower back. Feel a light tracking up through the sternum and opening in the heart. Shoulders releasing down. Unhinge the jaw. Feel, what have we come into this space with today physically Do we notice what's shifted physically? And what would we like to release today? When you start to connect to that in the breath, as you inhale, really flood all the way down to the pelvic floor and gush it out. Letting go. 2 more times, just like that. Sounding or sighing. And then allow the breath to become deep, slow, and full, layering in your ujjayi. Ujjayi is that oceanic sound, really constricting the back of the throat, helping to stoke your process of digestion. And what does it mean to really digest? Is to really integrate the knowledge, the information that you're receiving. We set our collective intentions to release what is finally ready to be let go of, to let go of our expectations of this linear progress. We be open to receive the help and the guidance in any way that it shows up. And we open the practice by chanting Om 3 times together. Inhale deeply for Om.